Okay, welcome back everyone. Today we're actually going to do something a little bit unique. So we've done some episodes already, but we're going to compile them into a really big lab. Okay, so let's have a look at the topology that I'm planning on setting up here. Alright, so we've got this topology here. So we have two domain controllers. We're going to have a primary one and we'll have a secondary one. And by doing this, it just means that we can have a bit of redundancy, a bit of high availability there. The domain controllers, they're such an important role. So in the first domain controller, we're going to have a DHCP as well. So when these clients log on, they'll be able to get DHCP. This is our second domain controller. These two guys over here, they're file servers. And we're going to use DFS as our file system. And we'll make this work by, when we're creating a user, we'll do a user with a profile that's linked to the file system here. So this is just redundant file servers. So basically the folder over here, they're sort of like synchronized. And as far as the computers are concerned, if we look at the Harry domain, it's kind of like if we do share, these are both shares folders, but they're the same because they're being replicated. But as far as the user is concerned, that's how they see it. So we'll be doing these in different phases, I think maybe 3 or 4 phases. Phase one, we're just going to set the topology up. We're just going to set it up. So we'll get the ISOs. We will install them. We'll install Windows 2016 4 times, and we'll have Windows 10 twice. So just get the topology up and running and networked, and be able to communicate with each other. Phase 2, we're going to set up DHCP. Sorry, we will set up DHCP, but we'll do the domain controller first. So this will be the first the domain controller in our network. So we'll promote that to the forest, root forest, and then we'll have a second domain controller. But we're only going to look at the one domain. We're not having a different domain. So they'll be part of the same domain. That's just going to be a secondary one. So that'll join the first domain controller. Then we'll have to configure the computer names and also the IP addresses. Then in phase 3, we're going to configure these 2 file servers and set up DFS. Phase 4, down the bottom here, we'll complete this setup. So we'll create a user. So the user's there, sorry. We'll link the profile to the user to this file server. And we'll do a GPO, no control panel, for example. Then we'll load these devices up, and hopefully they'll be able to get a DHCP address and be able to have their profile redirected. Sorry, not redirected, but have it share the profile on this file server, and see if the no control panel group policy works. So this will probably take about 20 minutes per phase, and this is going to be a lot of fun. I really can't wait to do this. This is actually very interesting. Now, I've got 2 Hyper-V 2 systems, right? Because I'm actually in the middle of doing some videos on Azure Active Directory and Intune and things like that. So I'm just going to leave these here because I've configured them in a certain way, and I'm really happy with that. But now let's have a look, just in case, and I'll put these in the show notes. Okay. If you want to find the ISOs, just fire up your browser. I use Edge, and the reason why I use Edge is I do so much Microsoft training. I teach Microsoft training at a tertiary institute here in Melbourne. I just get used to it, but I actually prefer other browsers, to be honest, and not even Chrome. I've got my other favorites. Firefox is really good. I like the lightweight versions of the browsers, but anyway, I digress. So let's go and find Windows 2016 Evaluation Center. Evaluation, and center is spelled the American way. Right click that and we'll open that there. You'll notice I've got dark mode going on here. I think I'm cool. Okay, so now we need to find, so there it is there. So there's Windows 2016. You can grab other versions if you like. Windows 22, 2022 has just come out. So download that, have a play with it. These other servers, Windows Admin Center, that's interesting. That's unlimited. You can use it as long as you like. Hyper-V server, nice as well. If you've got a Blade server, you know what? I would look into buying a second-hand Dell server or a HP server. I got one last year for like $100. A real life server. That's still, it is perfect for lab environments. Not good for production environments, but for lab, really good. And then put Windows Hyper-V server on it. You can free up your computer, so you don't need to use, you don't need to do your labs on your computer. But in any case, I forgot to mention this lab. If you're following along, if you want to do this lab here, by the way, this is Windows 10 that I'm going to look at as well. It's a different ISO. But if you want to do this lab, I've got 32 gig of RAM on mine. To do this lab, I would have 16 gig, not less than that. Download a copy of Windows 10 Enterprise. You know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to download this one. I'm going to download this because I've got one already, but it's been a while. So, yep, I'm just going to just fill this stuff out here. There we go. 64-bit English. So I'm actually going to download this. And that will download in the background. If I clicked it, that is. Pretty sure I clicked it. Any case, we'll move on. All right, so now we've got okay, there it is. It's downloading in the background. I've got a downloader here. Excellent. That's downloading in the background. Let's get this on the road, shall we? So the first phase one, we are going to set the servers up and install the two Windows 10 clients. We'll have them networked so that they can at least communicate with each other, but we'll just get them running, get them their host names, configure the IP addresses for the servers, static IP addresses, but not the clients. These are not connected to the internet at all, so we'll have a look at that later. All right, so right click up here, go to new virtual machine. I've done this in previous videos, but you know, the more times you do it, the better. You know? So just keep watching. Just a gentle reminder that I'm not editing this, so I'm going to be simple. I'm no fancy names. DC1. I like to store them in a particular location. Let me check on, and I've just put them somewhere. Let's have a look. VM files. Virtual machine. Yep, there we go. And leave them as generation 1. You know, in production environment, again, you'd probably use generation 2. I'll give them 4 gigs of RAM each. I think that should be fine. I'm going to create a private LAN because I want to separate this from my home network. Put as 40 gigs minimum hard drive. I think it should be. Don't do it less than 40 gigs. I'm going to link to my Windows Server ISO, which I've downloaded in the background, and finish that. I'm going to do exactly the same process for the for DC2, and you can fast forward this if you want to. It's exactly the same thing. I'm just going to call it DC2. DC2 generation 1 4096, that's 4 gigs, same private LAN private switch, 40 gigs. The file won't be exactly 40 gigs, it'll be less, but it can get up to 40 gigs. Same with the RAM, it's up to 4 gigs. Again, I'm going to do this another time. Finished. Okay, we'll do the file servers now. FS1, we're not going to make any fancy names. Did I do that as PC1 or no? That's fine. Yeah, I'm going to put it into my favorite location again. In fact, the last virtual machine, I think I didn't do it. No, I didn't do the last one properly. That's okay. I won't go back. Generation 1. Oh, did I press finish? Oh, let's go back and fix that. We'll go back into settings. So if you make the mistakes, you just right click and go into settings. I'll show you that again. Just right click that. I accidentally pressed finish without finishing the setting up of this. Just go to settings and you can fix this. I'm going to put it back up to 490s. Apply enable dynamic memory. Shows you from the lowest to the highest possible, but that's the highest value there. What else do I need to configure? Oh, network adapter, LAN private switch. Cool. That mistake was a good mistake to make. All right, lucky last. File server 2. When I get to the part where we're configuring distributed file system, DFS, I'll explain to you. I'll actually go and talk about, usually in the episodes that I create, I don't go into the theory part. It's just mainly how to do stuff. But in this scenario, I'll talk to you a little bit about how that's set up and works. Private switch. While I'm doing this, if you have any questions, I've got comments open. You can ask away. I will get back to you. I'm really interested in providing back to the community. In fact, I think FS1. If I go back to go to settings, oops, I don't think I put a no, I didn't get the ISO. Okay, so I'll right click that, settings, DVD. Yeah, that's a good mistake to make, isn't it? We can fix this up. Remember, guys, very critical. Critical is my favorite word. I think it makes me feel special. But it's really important to understand that when you're in a production environment or in your home lab, setting it up, things never work perfectly. Never. You're always going to run into issues. So the videos that I provide, I do not edit them. I want you to see my mistakes. I want you to see that I'm not Mr. Perfect. I'm not Superman, or I'm not, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to get out of that. I'm going to fix the mistakes. That's reality. That's IT networking. It's not how well you can do something. It's how bad you do something and get yourself out of it. Fix it. It's like in one of the Rocky films where Sylvester Stallone's character Rocky has a chat to his son. It's not how hard you can hit, but how hard you can get hit and get up. So this is IT. You will make heaps of mistakes. Hopefully not in a production environment. Try not to make mistakes, because you could do bad things. Which is why a lot of organizations have so like a testing environment, or an isolated, or a lab, or a pilot kind of networking. All right, so let's create 2 Windows 10 machines. Now, how is my downloads going? Clients, yeah, it should be good now. Let me just put that into my favorite location. Hang on a sec. I've got lots. I need to clean up my downloads folder. Got lots and lots of stuff here. Don't worry, I've got nothing controversial on my personal computer. Too old for that. Let's where are we going to put it? Okay, I'm going to transfer it. Move to my favorite ISO locations. Yeah, I'm just doing this in the background. You won't see this on your screen. Windows, organize your ISOs. Trust me, organize. Be organized. Okay, beautiful. The best advice I can give you when you're working in IT is be organized. You know, when they have that job role, and I'm just going to fly through this so you can watch it. Client 1. The best advice I can, you know, when you apply for a job, right? In every single job I've applied for, every single one of them has attention to detail. Attention to detail. Attention to detail. It drives me crazy. Every single job, there's attention to detail. In other words, what they're really saying, don't make mistakes. You are not allowed to make mistakes. Where's my Enterprise Edition? It's still downloading. We'll just wait a little bit. We're just going to wait for this to download while I. It's a 4 gig. You know what? I'll put pause because this is a 4 gig file. Won't be a second. Okay, so let me find out where I put this. Actually, sorry, this is not the ISO. I need to concentrate. I'm talking about attention to detail, and I'm not following my own advice there. All right, so let's go to VM files. We'll put it in my little folder there. All right, now we're running. By the way, for those non-Australians out there, if you're over in the US or Europe, I do talk funny. I'm Australian, so. So I'm just going through this again. Pretty much same image file. Now this is where I want to get my Windows 10 machine. There it is. I just downloaded this one. This is Windows 10 Enterprise. You get 90 days to use this. Yep. And there's other ways to do this really quickly, but I'm just doing this because I want you to get in the habit of knowing how to do this on your own. But there are better ways to deploy these clients and these machines. Far more efficient and a quicker way. But we're doing this because we want to be creatures of habits. Oops. Alright, so it's taken us about 20 minutes to get 6 machines up and running. We haven't even installed anything on them yet, so. Okay. I need to do that again. Wrong one. Beautiful. Next, and finish. Alright, now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to install Windows 2016 on DC1. I'll install Windows 10 and I'll show you how to do that on the client. But then I'm going to put pause and I'll finish the others so we don't waste too much time. Once you do one, the other ones are easy. Alright, so let's do domain controller first. Let's connect before we start. In my humble opinion, this is the way to go. And let me just create a new scene. I'll pause the video just for a second. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to just check on media up here, just to make sure that, yes, it's loaded. That's good. You can't see it on my screen, but it's Windows 16 is loaded. Let's start this. You might need to press a button, a key to get in here. Maybe it looks like I don't need to in this scenario. So again, I'm only going to do this once. The other 4 servers, just install them exactly the same. All right, so let's put English Australia. If you're in the US, put Australia. Put your location, the language where you're at. Like for example, if you're speaking Arabic, then there's Algeria, Bahrain. If you speak Central Atlantis. Okay, that's interesting. Oh, Central Atlas. Okay, I think it's Moroccan. Chinese is different versions. So choose the one that's closer to your language or your dialect. It's better to do it that way because of the time and currency. In the US, they have their dates as the months first and then the days second. When I was in the US, it drove me crazy. But in Australia, we have day first and month second. Also, if you're in the UK, you use the pound symbol for your currency. In Australia, we use the dollar sign. In Europe, you might use a euro. And if you're in Turkey, you use the Turkish lira. You know what I'm saying, right? So we're just going to install this. So the language and currency and times is actually very important to get that right. Alright, so I've got some choices. Do not select in this lab where it doesn't have anything there. You want the desktop experience. Microsoft has that as default. They're trying to push us to core. It's called Windows Server Core. But we want the data center evaluation. We don't really need evaluation in this particular lab, but do it anyway. You might want to use the lab for other things. Might as well go for the full Monty. Just go for everything. I accept the terms. I don't have any choice. And we'll just keep going. You guys have probably done this many times. All right, so I'm just waiting for that to go now. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up Windows 10, and while this is waiting, while this is doing its installation process. So we'll go into client 1, right click, we'll connect to it first, and I'm just going to create a scene in OBS software, so to make that a bit more bigger. Just pause while I do that. Alright, so this is the client 1, we're going to put Windows 10 on this. And Windows 2016 is still running in the background. I like to do multitasking. I like to do several things at once so I don't waste time. But if you're doing that, make sure you got a game plan up and running. Make sure you have a document that you're following, because if you're all over the place, you're doing things here and there, you can make mistakes this way. So make sure you got a game plan and stick to it. Now this is Windows 10, so you notice it's a bit different than Windows 2016. But not that much different. You might have older versions of stuff, so there's going to be some slight differences. I think my Windows 2016 server, I think it's old. Can't really remember now. So, but generally speaking, they're very similar. So this will go into setup mode. Okay, and we have to accept a license as usual. Nothing to see here, nothing to write home about, and this is going to install. Let's have a look at our domain controller. You're running Windows 2016. It looks like it's going to take a little bit of time, so I will pause. Okay, and we'll I might get the other ISOs up and running, or should we wait? We're at 23 minutes already. Oh, okay, I think we might wait a bit. So yeah, let's just do a quick reminder of what we're doing. So at the moment we've got DC1 getting installed now. We've got client 2 over here, which is starting to move. Starting to install. There's the okay. There we go over here. Alright, so it looks like Windows 2016 has almost completed its installation. We're going to now put a password. Okay, so let's Alt Control Delete. We'll put the password. Now, I am now logging in locally to this machine. It's in a work group. Again, I don't have a domain. That's why we're here. We're here doing this lesson because we're going to set up a domain. So if you see administrator by itself, you're logging in locally. I don't have a choice because there is no domain. So let's log into that. Excellent, fantastic. We're doing very well here. And Windows 10 in the background still working. So what I'll do now, and I'll only do this, I'll only show you this the once. With the other server machines, instead of going through every single one, just remember, you need to change for servers. You need to change the computer name and change the IP address, restart, and log in with the domain name first, then the username after that, because you want to log in to the domain for these exercises. I'll show you what I mean later. So first of all, the very first thing I'll do is I'll change the IP address. Now there's different ways you can do this. You can politically incorrect way. It's just in many ways to skin a cat. And if my daughter heard that, she would be abhorrent. She wouldn't talk to me if I said that. So the politically correct way is to say how to skin many ways to skin a potato. So that potatoes don't really have feelings. So, all right. So I'm going to have that as the IP address, subnet mask. Default gateway, I don't have this set up to a router that's going to take me outside of the network. Maybe one day I might do it. So I will put the default gateway as one. The best practice is to have, this is my advice, is to have the first IP address in the subnet as your default gateway. It's just easier that way if you stick to a formula. The DNS, remember I'm going to be a DNS here on this server. So I'll put the loopback, which is home. You know, no place like 127.0.0.1. No place like home. All right, so let's OK that. Okay, so the IP address is done. Let's go into now we want to change the computer name. Go to system here. We'll see the computer name is WIN and blah blah blah. We want to change that. We'll change it. Now I'm not going to join a domain. I'm going to start one. So I'm just going to write DC1. I'm not going to be creative or fancy with the name. We'll just stick to the basics. So okay, that's good. We need to restart this device, and we will now. We'll restart it. When I come back, I have to log in locally because the domain's not set up yet. We're going to do that in phase 2. All right, so while that's doing that, let's go back to our Windows 10 machine, and we can see that this is called the out-of-box experience, OOBE. Please remember that. You're going to hear this a lot. What that means is that when you open up a new machine from, if you're in Australia, from JB or Harvey Norman, or if you're in the US, you're from Best Buy or I forgot the name, like Walmart. If you get a laptop fresh from whatever, this is what you're going to get. You're going to open it and you're going to get this. This is the screen here, out of box experience. If you ever do things like deploying operating systems through Intune or something like that, this is an important concept because we can bypass all this. Keyboard US is fine. If you're in the UK and you've got a keyboard with a pound system, or if you're in Euro, you get to choose. But US is fine for Australians. I don't want to add a second keyboard. If I had a different language, I could. Because I'm not connected to the internet, I can't do it the Microsoft way where you have an email, you log in email, which I wouldn't do anyway in this lab. So I just connect to limited. We'll just do it this way, and it's just going to restart. Just wait for Windows 10 to reload. We're at about 30 minutes, so we're getting to that stage where I will pause and set up the other virtual machines, and then just get the computer names and the IP addresses up and running. Okay. Okay, again, I don't have IP. I don't know why it's going through this again. I'm not really sure. It's a bit strange. But anyway, I'm going to call this client 1. Okay. And I'm going to put a password here and just confirm the password. Oops. Got butterfingers today. Sticky fingers. Don't do what I'm doing. Don't do this. I've done this a million times, and I don't ever need to. I'm never going to reset the password. But if you, in a real life environment, if you've got a home computer, have those 3 questions good to go. Security questions, just in case you need to reset your password. I'm going to say no to Cortana. I'm never going to. This is not about Cortana. So again, remember, we're going to configure the client. I'm only going to change the name. I'm going to leave DHCP for this client. I'm not going to give it a static IP address. So they say several minutes. I'll pause. All right, so it looks like our Windows 10 machine is up and running. It didn't really take that long. But what we need to do now is we need to right-click, System. Now this is a bit different than Windows 2016. This one, we actually have to scroll down and go to rename this PC Advanced. We have to scroll down a bit. Not here, not rename PC. You know what, actually? We could do it now. We could rename the PC to this one. That's okay. But I like to get into the habit of doing it this way because this is where you would log into the domain, which we will do later on in phase 2 or even another phase. So let's call this client 1 and we'll leave it in the workgroup. Click OK. Once we do that, I'm not changing the IP address. Okay, I'm not changing it. Just really quickly, if I go to command prompt, I'll do an ipconfig/all. Oops, can't even spell. ipconfig all sticky fingers. Alright, I've got an APIPA address. Means it's trying to get a DHCP address. It doesn't have a static, so it'll give it a self-configured APIPA address. That's all. I'm happy with that now. There is no DHCP server in this environment yet. Alright, let's restart that. And excuse me. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause for like 20-30 minutes. I'm going to set up. So this is where we're at now. We've done that. We set up DC1, and I've just finished client 1. I'm going to set up DC2, file server 1, and file server 2. The only thing that I'm going to do differently is I'm going to set up the IP address different, and I'm going to change the names. Like this one will be DC1, file server 1, file server 2, and this one will be client 2. So I've got 4 machines to set up. That's the only thing I'm changing, the name and the IP address. Everything else is exactly the same. So instead of wasting another 30-40 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and do that, come back, and I'll show you that everything's up and running. So if you want to go grab a coffee or something, see you shortly. Just while I'm configuring DC2, I've done everything else. Just wanted to let you know, with the servers, make the default DNS server as the first domain controller for this lab. Just thought I'd just let you know that would be the way that we're going to set this up. I'm just going to put pause while I finish the other virtual machines. Alright, so we're almost finished. I've almost set up all the machines. This is client 2, Windows 10. I almost finished this. So I've got 4 servers, Windows 2016, all operating. They've got their server names. They've got their IP address static. This will be my last client. This will be the last client. There's client 1 and client 2, Windows 10 machines. I'll change the computer name again, but I will not assign it a static IP address. So we're almost finished this phase 1. Once this is done, we'll stop this video. and I'll start working on phase 2 and I'll upload that a little later on. But let's just confirm that all these settings are okay. Now at the moment, the Windows 10 2016 machines can communicate with each other because they all have static IP address, but the Windows 10 machines will not be able to communicate with the 2016 machines. They might, client 1 and 2 probably could communicate with each other with the 2 different IP addresses. But anyway, let me just sorry, I don't want to change the IP address. I want to just change the name. Go to System, and we'll go down to rename. So this is client 2 change. And we'll call this client 2 because we're not very creative. Yep, I'll need to restart, and I'll restart now. Alright, so that's all done now. So that's all done. So what we'll do is, I just noticed my headphones, where I took my headphones off and it messed this beautiful lock of hair. Anyway, so that's it. We're done now. So we've set up. Let's have a look at each one. So I got DC1. Let's log in. We will still log in as local just for now. Yep. Okay, so that's DC1. Go to System, you'll see DC1 there. The IP address is already there. We go to DC2. Same thing. System. DC2. We go into file server as well. Right click, System, file server 1. Great. File server 2. And we'll see it's file server 2, and you just have to take my word for it that client 1 and client 2 is up and running. Alright, so I'm going to stop this phase 1 video. In phase 2, we're going to configure domain controllers on both DC1 and 2. We'll put DHCP on DC1 so that we can give IP addresses to our clients. We'll create an organization unit and a user group. No, you know what? We won't. We'll leave that last. We'll leave that last. All right. So yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode when we start phase 2. All right. Thank you everyone for viewing. We'll see you shortly.